I was detained at the age of 13 years old.
Where I was convicted of armed robbery.
And I ended up committing crimes.
And I followed my sister a lot. So we started by like petty crimes like stealing.
I would take things from Victoria's Secret, Bath and Body Works, not really to use, but to sell, to make money, to go grocery shopping.
I kind of liked the gang lifestyle.
My sister and I were involved in a domestic violence situation, and I was charged with second-degree murder.
And then it started getting into like stealing cars and robbing.
And facing 25 years to life.
This department here began over 100 years ago in Los Angeles County. It's got a long history.
Probation officers are not armed.
We're not police officers.
Our authority comes from the courts. We are the liaison between the courts, between the families, between, if we're talking juvenile cases with youth, the schools, and treatment providers. So we are kind of the glue that holds that all together.
I grew up in Aliso Pico housing projects, which were known for the most concentrated of gangs. It was tough for a young man to try to find his way, and especially when you don't have that father figure.
I didn't have a very stable household. I was the oldest of 3 sisters, and I felt like it was important for me to make sure that I took care of them when my mom couldn't. Around that time, it was Christmas, and I knew my mom couldn't do it. So we went to the Old Navy, and we got everything we wanted. We put it in bags, and I had the bright idea of taking matches and lighting some pajamas on fire. Well, what it did was it was a distraction to get people to look over at someone else instead of us, and we would walk out. We ended up getting caught for that.
We have to keep them safe. The community expects us to keep the community safe. And then we also have to follow the orders from the court.
I say to them when I'm working with them, I say, you know what, my job is to get you off probation as fast as possible. And they get really excited, right? And I said, but you know what, I can't do it for you, right? And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, look at your conditions here. You got to go to school every day, right? And then, you can't hang out with this person, and you got to be home at this time. Like, if you can do all these things consistently over a period of time, then I write reports to the court.
We don't take a referee mentality. We take more of a guardian mindset.
So once you're on probation, they kind of like, they have you. Then, if they feel like the household isn't, up to par, then they might put you, maybe in a group home.
And then I was placed in Dorothy Kirby Placement Center.
Well, when I first got to Kirby, of course, I got in there a little bit, rough and stuff, still rough and tough, trying to, from the streets and stuff.
I didn't want to open up to anybody. I just was kind of shut down.
We were in cottages. We were like 10 to a cottage. So you start getting a relationship with your cottage sisters or brothers in the facility. And so we got close, and then things started changing. And then Mr. Shabazz came around, and he kind of changed everything for us.
There was a man named Mr. Shabazz, and he was like a social worker or a probation officer that he would come and see us on a regular basis.
I believe I met Mr. Rahman Mohammed Shabazz at the age of 16 at the Dorothy Kirby Center in Los Angeles.
We wear a lot of hats around here. Monday I might be a coach. Tuesday I might be a counselor. Wednesday I might be a teacher.
I was a LA Unified school bus driver for about 22 years. And during that time I was also a youth pastor. And I believe those 2 positions prepared me for probation.
I'm blessed beyond measure to have had Mr. Shabazz. He was more than a probation officer. He was more than a therapist. He was more than a life coach. He was more than a friend. Someone asked me the other day who he is, and I thought about it, and I said, he's the person who should have been my dad.
My responsibilities consist of supervising detained youth while they're going through their court process. We want to make sure that the youth is receiving their schooling, their medical care, and their mental health care, but also ensuring that they're participating, encourage them to participate in the services that are inside the facility and even outside the facility while they're in the community.
I usually have my family support which was odd, but because I was so rebellious at the time, it was hard for them to tame me. But usually when I would get in structure, I would work my program.
One thing I did have within me, though, that I discovered was the gift of art.
Most probation officers are dishing money out of their pockets for the kids. You know, it's like, I don't know how much money I spent when I was in camp on getting kids, you know, I'm going to do this for my kids, I'm going to do that for my kids. And we call them our kids. And so that's one of the things that people don't know.
When I was in Camp McNear, I was doing a year. I remember out of all probation officers, Dennis Callwood, I stood out to him because I would doodle a lot. And I would draw, doodle, make greeting cards. And then he's like, Deborah, you're a great artist. And I go, oh, thank you, Mr. Callwood. He goes, what if I were to bring you art supplies? Would you draw? I said, absolutely. And he brought out all these markers. And then he was like, go ahead, express yourself. And then he started to guide me, not knowing that he was an artist himself. I just knew he was the DPO who saw me for my gift, gave me the tools, and another way to be able to express myself.
My last stop was a place called Dorothy Kirby Center. And that's where I met the music teacher there. And basically when you go there, they assess you to see what kind of things you like what are you good at. And I always was into music and I sang. So she started to kind of take me under her wing. She helped me get into a school that shortened my sentence at Dorothy Kirby. So because I was accepted into this school, they allowed me to basically be released. And it was super hard to get used to because the schedule was very rigorous. It was like 7:45 classes and you didn't get out of school till about 4:45. So this particular school made it to where it was hard for me to misbehave because I had so many responsibilities. And I had so many things on the line at the time. I was tired of messing up.
Well, now I'm currently in school now. I'm going for my psychology degree, but my main goals and concerns are still to work with at-risk youth. I'm a certified counselor.
I went back to school. I became a state certified drug counselor by the Board of California. And by then, I did 10 years as the director of substance abuse services and programming at Homeboy Industries. Although I wanted more, and I said, how can I take my gift of art, the substance abuse, trauma-informed lens, my clinical approach, and weave some sense of program that is going to also be beneficial to the people that we serve, in this case, the gang-involved population. And that's when Arts for Healing and Transformation came to light. Probation was willing, and they were open. And then I recognized that they felt that it is important to have folks with lived experience, culturally relevant, to provide these services. So now there's a shift. Actually, you're welcome. We need you. And I need you, probation, to help us come together to build that village that we so talk about, that every kid needs in order to find his way. And ever since I've been working in the camps and probation, I have made a name for myself in a way. And I have made an impact, and mainly working alongside probation. And I need them as much as they need me. Together we can make the world a safer place.
There were days I went home and I would just like be near tears. And it was hard to sleep sometimes because you thought about this kid or that kid.
Mr. Shabazz knew that my mom hadn't been in my life for a few years, and he knew that that bothered me. And one day my mom showed up at Dorothy Kirby Center. It wasn't the right visiting day. It wasn't the right visiting hours. And Mr. Shabazz caught word of that. And he allowed my mom to have a visit with me. And that meant a lot to me. That meant a lot to me. It's like it shed some light on me. It was like, man, you know what? Things can turn around. I missed my mom a lot, whether she was on drugs or not. In that day that Mr. Shabazz allowed my mom to come in. when it wasn't even visiting hours or visiting days, when he allowed that, it's like my heart shined.
Many years, I'd ask them and others would ask them,
Hey, well, what do you want to do when you get older, so we can try to encourage them into whatever academic or whatever life skill path that they want to choose?
you'll hear different answers. The most common answer: to be a probation officer.
Most of these kids say they want to be us.
You can speculate what the reasoning is behind it.
I smile because I said, all right, that means we're doing something right.
You know, I've always done hair. That's pretty much been the icebreaker for like any type of relationship that I had when I was there.
I graduated from the high school in juvenile hall, and I never went back because I had a trade.
We basically started working here about, I'm gonna say 8 or 9 years ago. What happened was the previous owner for this building was in the middle of selling. She offered it to us, and then we just kind of took over.
We own our own salon. We're outstanding citizens. We travel. We've been out of the country. Things that we never thought we would do, we have done. I give a lot of credit to the probation department because they had a lot of people there that cared.
Right now, we're standing up to educate people on who we are and what we do, because it's quite clear that either the public doesn't know, right? Obviously, the public that knows, unfortunately, are the people that get arrested and get put on probation, and when we have to supervise and help them through their navigate, they're the people that know what we do. But the rest of the population that's never been arrested or never been on probation, they don't know what we do.
I run a nonprofit. I've been doing that for 9.5 years, assisting single moms and grandparents that are raising their grandchildren that are low income. And I believe that that has something to do with some of the people that have crossed my path in life. And I believe that Mr. Shabazz was one of those people.
About a 120-year-old Victorian house. It's 4,000 square feet. And Mr. Shabazz is in every inch of it. He's in every decision that I make, every strength that I hold, every firm belief that I hold. He walked me down the aisle when I got married. He shaped who I am as a person. Mr. Shabazz was the first example of a human being who walked upright and clean in the light of day, and who honestly loved God and showed it in his reverence for me and the way he engaged with me and my peers, the way he interacted with us. I am one of many who will speak volumes about the relationship, and it would not have happened without Dorothy Kirby. It wouldn't have happened without the probation department and their presence.